I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to The Conversation with Al McFarlane. Glad to be here and glad to have you along today. Today is Wednesday, July 20th, 2022, and we're talking about wealth building, creating wealth, about policy, strategies, activities that enrich our lives, our families, our personal selves, but enrich our communities in the process. Today's program features, to begin with, a discussion with one of the thought leaders from the Progressive Policy Institute. Michael Mandel is vice president and chief economist of the Progressive Policy Institute in Washington, D.C. He's also a senior fellow at the Mack Institute for Innovation Management at the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. He was a chief economist at BusinessWeek prior to its purchase by Bloomberg. And the organization, the Progressive Policy Institute, likes to be referred to as radically pragmatic. Radically pragmatic is a catalyst for policy innovation and political reform. And the goal is to create ideas that move America beyond ideological and partisan deadlock. The organization was created in 1989, started as a sort of an intellectual home for the New Democrats and earned reputation as Bill Clinton's idea mill. And many of its mold-breaking ideas have been translated into public policy and law and have influenced international efforts to modernize progressive politics. Well, let me bring in Dr. Michael Mandel. Brother Mandel, how you doing? Welcome to The Conversation with Al McFarlane.
Thank you for that introduction, and thank you very much for having me here today. It was great that you started out with radically pragmatic. It sounded so good coming off your tongue.
Well, it's a cool idea. I mean, it resonates with me and in my energy and my intent as a communicator, as a business person, but it resonates with my perception and intent as an African American. I call myself a New World African, and my mission is to identify and create and promote opportunities for self-realization, for actualization, for Black people, framed by a notion of cooperation, cooperative strategies, and driven by a sense of justice. So justice is the framework. The goal is justice, freedom, and the full development of individuals and therefore communities.
That sounds great. Thank you very much for having me here today.
Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for the work that you do. So let me ask you to state in your words, the mission and vision of the Public Policy Institute.
Well, the Progressive Policy Institute is about growth and innovation and helping everyone move forward. That's the meaning of the word progress and progressive. It's moving forward and sort of focusing on the future. And we sort of look at all sorts of different issues. We look at economics, we look at labor, we look at technology, we look at regulation, we look at healthcare, not just in the U.S. but around the world as well. And the goal is to sort of find solutions that move beyond the current stagnant debates to a place where, as you say, people can find opportunity and find justice in the world. And what we work with whoever we can work with to achieve this, and we are not doctrinaire. And that's really why I joined the PPI 10 years ago, and have found it a very congenial home for forward-looking ideas.
Take a minute to describe some of the sticking points right now. When you say the mission is to get us to think beyond and move beyond the glitches, the places where we get stuck around policy or around ideology. Describe 4 or 5 of those to give us a sense of how you articulate or envision those particular sticking points.
Well, let's just start with one, which is climate change. Climate change is obviously, and energy policy is obviously an extremely important issue, and we sort of clearly have to sort of get control of our use of fossil fuel in the long run. But we don't want to be in a situation where we sort of move too fast, where we sort of put ourselves, like we have now been, in a case of soaring energy prices that actually hurt Americans. So finding the right balance, taking climate change super seriously, while not throwing out the baby with the bathwater, is very much on top of our list. Then comes technology and growth and innovation. We believe in the power of technology to improve people's lives and to improve the lives of our kids, which are very concerning for us, and to create new opportunities. And that doesn't mean letting technology run amok, but it also doesn't mean being hostile to it, which a lot of people are. So they're both the left and the right. Then there's the question of the appropriate role of government. We believe that regulation is absolutely important for having an economy that works for people. On the other hand, if we have an excess of regulation, then you end up squeezing all the life out of the economy. And so we could keep going on this. And in healthcare, we're sort of very much in favor of increasing the subsidies for the ACA, which actually sort of helps people that are that have trouble paying for their health care.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not interested in nationalized health care, which we think would actually sort of squeeze out some important innovations. So you can kind of keep going. I mean, we think we are where a lot of Americans are,
Mm-hmm.
which is that we want progress, we want things to be better, and we don't want to go overboard in the process.
Let me ask you to talk about then the recent report. You called it Investment Heroes. What is that about? What's the concept there?
So we believe that investment in the U.S. is extremely important for creating jobs, for lowering prices, for moving things forward. And so I think it was about 10 years ago, we decided that it was important to highlight those companies that are investing in the U.S. So that was our first Investment Heroes report, where we sort of listed the top 25 companies based on our analysis. Well, a lot of companies don't break down their investments by the U.S. domestic and international. So we sort of use public data to sort of identify those companies that had very high investments in the U.S. And
were there any surprises?
Well, what has been a surprise over the years, frankly, is, as in this year, 9 out of the top 11 companies on our list are tech, telecom, or e-commerce. That is, the digital companies have turned out to be the biggest investors in the U.S., creating capacity, and as the title of their report shows, is also kind of making investments that create jobs and lower prices. We have surprisingly few industrial companies on the list. All right, we have the two major. Actually, this year we have 3. We have GM, we have Ford, and we have Tesla. But you sort of look and you don't have a lot of other industrial companies. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really what we've seen in terms of the inflation, is that we haven't seen very much inflation in the digital area, because all the investment has created a lot of new capacity that has lowered prices. And we've seen a lot of inflation in goods production, because the U.S. has seen our capacity to sort of produce manufactured goods falling almost every year since 2007. And that's a result of a lack of investment. And what we want to do is we want to sort of make it clear to Americans and to politicians about the importance of capital investment in the U.S. And this actually relates so much to the main topic of your show, which is wealth creation. Mm-hmm. Wealth creation is about investment. And this is about wealth creation on the national level, looking which companies are actually wealth creators in the U.S. And the top company, let me actually just read the top few companies, because it's actually kind of interesting. The very top company is Amazon, which invested almost $50 billion in the U.S. in 2021. Then you have the telecom companies AT&T and Verizon, Alphabet, Meta Platforms, Microsoft, Intel. Walmart is the first non-tech company on the list, Comcast, Duke Energy, and Apple. And so what we've got here is, to the degree to which we believe that capital investment creates jobs, creates capacity, creates wealth, and lowers prices, these are the companies that are putting their money where its mouth is, where their mouths are. And for us, this is, you were sort of asked about, issues that with this, there's, we are radically pragmatic. We're radically pragmatic about corporate America.
Mm-hmm.
We know that there's problems. We know that we need to sort of keep a watch on companies, but we also know that a lot of wealth is being created there. And this list in some ways identifies the companies that are creating wealth in the U.S.
So you've come out in opposition to a package of antitrust bills in Washington that are aimed at some of these same tech companies at the top of your investment heroes list. What's the reasoning behind that? What's the
Our
backstory?
reasoning is really simple. Okay, if you look at these industries, these tech, telecom, e-commerce, the digital sector, they're creating more jobs than any other sector in the country. The jobs have good pay and they are rising wages. They are there's very low inflation in this sector, and it's dynamically creating ecosystems in which other companies can thrive. And so I'm an economist. I believe in numbers. If I've got good job creation, well-paying jobs, and I've got low inflation, and I've got high capital investment and high productivity growth, what else do I want?
Well, let me ask you, is this an us versus them scenario? Is it you framed this as what's good for the United States and for the people here? Is there another way of looking? What other ways are there of looking at the numbers, the economics?
Well, I think it's interesting. I think the numbers speak for themselves, right? I think that when you sort of look at the economics of the job creation, you look at the economics of the inflation, it's very hard to argue with it. Then people make an argument about power, all right? They say these companies are too powerful. If you look back historically, they're really about the same size relative to the economy as the old industrial giants were,
Mm-hmm.
right? The GMs and the GEs and the IBMs of the world, right? And so they're large, but they're not large compared to the US economy. They're not large compared to the global economy. And in a world in which we care more about the global economy than ever before, it seems to us that knocking down some of the companies that are producing jobs and creating wealth is not the smartest thing to do. In fact, there may be problems with antitrust in this economy, but this is not where it is. The problems with antitrust may lie more in the industrial sector, where there's been a shrinkage in the number of companies, where there's been shrinkage in production, where there are fewer producers for any product. I mean, one industry that we sort of identified in this report was the paper goods industry, where capacity has fallen over the last 15 years as companies have closed plants. And it shouldn't be a surprise that there were big price spikes and shortages in paper goods like toilet paper and paper cups and tampons. This is in an industry where there wasn't very much capital investment, where capacity shrunk, and maybe there was more room to, because of a less supply, there was more pressure on prices. So I would actually sort of say that the companies that are at the top of our list, and we've made this case before, that you would expect companies that were non-competitive, anti-competitive, to be cutting back on capacity, to be raising prices, to be squeezing markets. These companies are creating capacity, adding jobs, lowering prices. I mean, when I sit down and I sort of talk to people, I sort of say, for 30 years before Amazon came along, wages in the retail sector, real wages in the retail sector were flat for 30 years. And we didn't hear, and actually they were flat, and they were really low especially for marginalized groups. And what's happened is these e-commerce fulfillment centers created jobs in places that had lost a lot of jobs, and they created jobs that were where the wages were 30% higher than the comparable retail jobs in the same area.
Let me drill down there then. So I identified early on that my interest is in how do we create systems and policies and practices that lead to justice and freedom for Black people in particular. My sense of that is that if we, well, from where I stand anyway, inside my skin as an African, as a Black man, to free, liberate, and to acquire power, agency in the Black community is to do the same for everybody. Our process is not exclusive, and it's not if I get it, you lose it. It's how do we all do well by all doing well. So let me ask you, as an economist, how should an Al McFarlane, a Black man, look at the challenges and the opportunity in the tech sector and in the economy to achieve my goals? And my goals are not strictly, exclusively, from my point of view, the American lens, but the lens that includes the development of Black populations of African people through the Caribbean and through South America and through continental Africa, the African diaspora. How do you address and suggest that an Al McFarlane approach the challenge and the opportunity?
That's a really great question. I mean, for me, I like to see the creation of small businesses and small business wealth using new technologies. And I especially want to see, and I've written about this, I especially want to see the creation of new manufacturing firms, which is what we really need in this country. We need to be able to produce stuff here. And we need people who can produce stuff here using new technologies. And that requires a bridge of capital, whether that's coming from the private sector or coming from the government, to sort of give people the funding that they need to sort of start up these new businesses. And that's where we are right now. How can we sort of use technology to enable the creation of new businesses? When I think about new businesses, I think about, auto dealer franchises, which were a route to wealth for a lot of people, and identifying what would be this franchise and what would be the growth prospects is really important, and being able to sort of lend people the money to get started is important. And so that's where I am at this point. I see there's this mammoth gap in the economy, right? So these companies, we have companies that now are much more efficient about moving product around, right? And the e-commerce fulfillment centers make it very easy for small businesses and small manufacturers to throw their stuff into the system and get it delivered. Now we need to start producing. We need people who will start new businesses, who will create in manufacturing, not just in retail. Retail has not been a route to great wealth production, because you end up with a lot of small mom and pop businesses that don't really go anywhere. Production is much more production in the sense of what can we produce in the US that we don't need to produce overseas anymore, that we can hire people close to home using new technology to be efficient and be able to compete with overseas. And this applies not just in the US. The creation of digital manufacturing is not just in the US, but in the Caribbean and other places too. So speaking right to your point, I see tremendous prospects here.
I think you're frozen there. Hang on a second.
No, I'm not frozen. I'm just not moving.
Okay, there we go. Okay, just not moving. Listen, let me bring two more voices on. My next guests are entrepreneurs, business owners, but I think before I go into the interview with them, it'd be useful to have you guys meet. And they may have a question about the economics that you've described, given their experiences as business owners and small business leaders. So let me introduce both Mary Terrace. Terrace rhymes with Paris, I think, and also Angela Lam Onayiga.
Correct.
Great. Okay. Let me introduce both of you guys to Dr. Michael Mandel. Dr. Mandel, as you heard, is with the Progressive Policy Institute. And these entrepreneurs, Dr. Mandel, are principals in a business called Strive Community Publishing. And Mary and Angela, as you listen, I wondered if you had any questions or thoughts, if you were sort of hearing and weighing the ideas being presented by Dr. Mandel against your experience, and also in the context of your vision and passion as business owners.
First of all,
And that's a tough thing to throw at you because it's not planned, but it's fun from my point of view. So jump in.
Answer.
Well, I invited Angie, because she's actually the co-founder of the Sister Co-op, which is what Strive Publishing is a part of. So Angie also has her own business called Angie Designs. So she's not actually a part of Strive Publishing, but we are both a part of the Sister Co-op.
Great. Take a minute to talk about Strive Publishing. And I want you both to actually respond to my first question. That is, any impressions, any feedback, any questions of Dr. Mandel before we let him go? And if you can hang on, Dr. Mandel, please hang on a couple of seconds, okay?
I'm not going anywhere. This is terrific.
Great. Okay, I'm glad you like being here.
Okay, well, Strive Publishing, I founded it after many years of teaching and not finding enough books buying about Black people. And really, my small business cannot compete with the huge publishing houses, and especially we cannot compete with Amazon. You were saying, Mr. Mandel, that, those corporations can, create jobs and bring prices down. And that pricing is what is keeping some small businesses from being successful, because we can't match that pricing. And then in terms of, job creation, I think it's time in our country where Black folks should be able to not have to work to survive, to be in those kind of positions where we're just always trying to survive. We want to thrive, and we want to own things, and we want to be successful and create generational wealth for our children and for our community. So when you're looking at the big corporations, it's not necessarily something that everybody wants to be a part of. We need to have our own things.
Agreed.
Thank you, Angela. Thoughts, impressions, feelings, feedback.
I would agree. And also, most of my business is imports. And then there's so many regulations. And I would say in every turn, there's a reason why you can't import goods here. And I think the struggle is when you have a small business and you're trying to do a lot for yourself, that there aren't a lot of people to help you. And like Mary said, there's so much other competition from larger industries that it's very hard to maintain your business.
And so Michael, what has to happen to support small businesses to have the attention of the nation and of the academy focused on creating and maintaining, broadening opportunity for business survival, for wealth creation in small businesses? And what about that conflict? We all know the story of, my parents. I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri. My parents owned a grocery store on 28th in Brooklyn. And we bought it from, my mom worked for a guy named Mr. Druin, a Jewish guy who was a classic small neighborhood grocery store owner. She worked for him. My mom spoke Yiddish, right? That's how long she worked there. And when he was ready to retire, we bought the business, right? And so, but that business survived until the supermarket came in 4 blocks away, and it wiped us out. So that's the same kind of crisis dilemma that I think Mary and Angela are talking about. How do we organize to thwart or to not be wiped out by that? How do we grow that and create either firewalls or whatever we need? I mean, what are your thoughts, Michael?
I think this is a really pressing problem. I really appreciate the way that this show has been sort of laid out. I do think there's an important role for sort of government in providing funding to help small businesses invest in new technology, whatever is needed to sort of improve productivity. Okay. and to sort of do what they need to do in a way that does create not just good products for customers, but wealth for the business owners as well. Okay, I'm very much in favor of that. So I think that the problem is that a lot of small business owners have been left without access to capital and without access to the money that would enable them to grow large enough to compete well. And I appreciate the issues that the two of you sort of brought up, and they sound very real and very tough. And
so let me close with you, Michael, by asking you to once again talk about the positions that the Institute is taking in opposition to antitrust bills. I mean, what does that do for those tech companies that you call heroes? And then why should that matter? I think you said it already, but I'm going to ask you to say it again, to ordinary people and to small businesses and communities.
I think that the right solution is not to sort of squeeze the big companies, though actually they need to be better regulated, but to provide more help to the small companies to make sure that they can sort of grow and thrive.
Awesome. Listen, Michael Mandel, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me here. This is a terrific show.
We'll have you come back, okay? Take care. I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. And continue with my conversation with my two guests who are here on behalf of Strive Community Publishing. And one of the reasons I invited them today is because they've got a special grand opening of the bookstore, the Strive Community Publishing Bookstore, an event today, July 20th, 5 to 7 p.m. At their offices in the IDS Center, Suite 254. The IDS, you must know, 80 South 8th Street in downtown Minneapolis. And let me ask you to talk about that event. First of all, Mary, I want you to invite people to show up, and to support what you're doing. And I love that you're doing what you're doing. I've seen some of your work, your products. I just finished reading, where's my book for, I just finished reading the book from Colnice. I had it handy here. I was going to show it. But it's one of your products.
Yes. It's
And
our first adult memoir.
yeah, good book, well written. And what's awesome is that I know Colnice. She was a student of mine when she was in high school, attending the Urban Journalism Workshop at the University of Minnesota.
Yeah.
Bright then and bright ever since, bright today, brilliant and just intensely, I could say, fierce woman and just a great human being.
Mhm.
And to read her book, when I saw it, we published a story about it in Insight News, did a review, and I also noticed the book shown at up at the African American Books and Literature Club as a featured book. So from that moment, so let me circle back to you and to Colnice to get you guys on the show to help promote what you're doing. I love what you're doing. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Talk about today in particular. Invite people to show up.
Okay. Well, first, I need to say that Colnice sends her apologies. She won't be able to make it to the bookstore opening, and she wasn't able to be on the show today. She has a little granddaughter who's celebrating a birthday today in Wisconsin.
Oh, sure.
But I'm sure you'd love to have her on your show some other time, right?
We would, absolutely. and all of your authors. I mean, we simply need to set up a process so that whenever you bring a product up, one of the places you bring it through is this program. And
awesome.
The newspaper. Glad to do it.
I was just thinking this morning we should have a newspaper stand in the bookstore with your newspaper.
We can make it happen today.
Okay. All right. So
I'll have them there before your 5 o'clock.
That would be awesome.
Okay.
Okay. Well, so the reason why we're having a grand opening, even though we were invited to join the sister co-op back in October, is because we just haven't had the capacity to really market that we're there. And so now that we have received some grant funding from Propel, the nonprofit Propel, although my business is a social enterprise and it's a for business, small Black-owned business, female-owned, all that good stuff. Got all those certifications and things too. I don't know what good those are doing me, but although we're for profit, we are able to apply for grants. So we did receive this grant, and it's helping us with getting more staffing and marketing to build our capacity, because I feel like what we're doing here is critical. And we're not the first ones in the Twin Cities to publish books by Black authors. You know, we've developed relationships with other Black-owned organizations. And even with independently published Black authors, we have some of their books in our store as well. So we're doing the grand opening so people realize that the bookstore is a part of the sister co-op within the IDS Center. So in the sister co-op, with Tianji's Designs, one side of the front of the store is Tianji's Designs, and those designs of purses and dresses and such from Nigeria, they pretty much sell themselves. People come in for the fashion, and they walk right past the books. So I want them to come in and just notice the books.
Are you there still? Well,
Yes.
I think I checked out for a second there. I clicked the wrong button, but go ahead. Yeah, so people, you want them to see the books too, to be aware of the books.
Mm-hmm.
And also support Black women. All the people in Sister Co-op, we're all small Black business owners. We have a candle maker there. We also have a person that makes her own greeting cards. And then we have, for sure, Mary with her Strive Publishing book company. And then myself, I'm one of the founders. We have clothes, jewelry, accessories from Nigeria. So I think you can find almost anything there. So we're asking people to come and support us.
Where exactly are you? Yes, you're in the Skyway level, right? Are you in that place where are you located in the IDS?
We're on the Skyway level, and we're between the Huntington Bank and Wells Fargo Bank.
What was there before? Do you know? Do people remember?
Before us, there was another Chameleon Shop. And then I think before that, there may have been a barber shop or a beauty shop before that.
So when you come up the escalator, you turn left or right to go where you guys are?
Turn right.
Yeah, right.
Turn right and go that way. Okay, I'm getting a picture of them. I used to bank down there at Bremer Bank, and so I know the place, but I haven't been there in a long, long time. And then for a while, my friend, you might know him, Rex Mirapuri, had a gallery in there for about a year or so. And that was a wonderful business. And I think it was a question of him being there on a special offer while something wasn't being done, a renovation was happening, and they needed somebody and made a special deal for him. But I'm impressed that you all have located your business in the IDS. I think it's significant and important that you've created a presence there. Mary, give me a little bit about your background. You said you're a teacher, and Angela, I'll ask you to do the same thing. And this is an unscripted conversation. You both can take this conversation wherever you want it to go. My goal is to make sure you have a chance to say some of the things you want to say to this audience, and for our newspaper, we're going to write the story. So please proceed.
Okay. Well,
Before you do that, Vosh, did I accidentally click off Brenda? I don't see her. Is she still there or not? She's not here. Okay. So maybe send her a link again. Maybe we accidentally knocked her off the system. Brenda is my writing partner for this show, and I don't see her right now. But go ahead, Mary, your background.
Okay, I'm from North Minneapolis, born and raised. I raised all my children in North Minneapolis, and
where'd you grow up in North Side? Where'd you grow up at?
Mostly on we started on Newton, like right off of Newton and Plymouth. When I was real little, I remember standing out on the lawn the night the shops were burning, and
where I am right now is like 6 blocks from there. I'm on Thomas Avenue. At Plymouth, 4 houses down. So I know the neighborhood. This is where I live right now. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So remember when it was like just a wreck down there in Plymouth? We used to play in the rubble. Isn't that crazy? I just can't believe that happened. Like when I look back on it, I can't believe that it was left like that. And children, I even got injured playing around over there. But anyway, back to my story.
Yeah, and we're going to come back. That's a good story to come back to. So I'm going to make a note and come back to that in a few minutes. Okay.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's a part of my story and a big memory. Then we moved to Barnes Place? No, Oak Park. We were there for a couple of years, and then my mom was on welfare, and we were always in housing houses, and I don't know why we had to move 3 times, but we finally landed on 10th and Humboldt, and that's where I spent most of my formative years, right up the street from the old Estes. Yeah. Used to walk to school to Franklin and then to North. I had my first child when I was at North, and I attended the MICE program, Mothers, Infants, and Children's Education. Thank God for that, because I was too young. I was 16 when I had my youngest. And he helps with Strive Publishing now, which is like coming full circle.
Amazing.
And he's an artist on the North Side. He likes to post his artwork just randomly for people to have for free.
Have we featured his work in Inside News yet?
Oh.
Have we? I'm asking. Do you know?
Mm-mm.
Okay,
No.
well, let's that's one more thing to do.
Okay, all right, all right.
Okay.
So then I, since I had children really young, I kept having them. Not that I'm a statistic. I was always trying not to become a statistic. So I never sat on welfare or anything like that, because I just didn't want to be seen that way, and I was trying my best to do everything different from what my mom did. So I always worked, but I always kind of secretly dreamed that I could be a teacher. I never told anybody. And I finally got an opportunity to go to Augsburg Weekend College when I was about 32. It took me 8 years to get through weekend college, but I finally got my teaching license and my degree and started teaching when I was 40.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, so it was teaching that led me into book publishing, really, because for every year, I just really had to struggle trying to find books and resources and bring people in, because school is so, the curriculum is just doesn't represent us. And it was very frustrating. And I kept saying somebody's got to do something about it. And I finally realized that I could do something about it, bring more books into the world for our children. So that's how I landed here. And then, of course, got invited to join the sister co-op. And I never thought I would have a bookstore, but here I am with Angie in her sister co-op.
Congratulations. So how much of the technology are you doing? What's your process for bringing a book to market? Do you simply advise and direct and counsel writers, or do you take their finished products and package them and get them to a printing company? Do you do the printing? I mean, what's the level of your involvement?
Wow, those are a lot of questions you're firing at me. But it was, it's still not a smooth process. And I really have to hand it to our authors. They just really have to go through all the learning curves with me. But it's always worth it in the long run. But we do accept and review their manuscripts. We hire work for hire editors, so they're professionally edited. We have now a literary consultant for folks who just really need help getting a manuscript put together. She can help with that. We work with work for hire illustrators. We're always looking for Black illustrators too, Black illustrators and Black editors, because we need more representation throughout the publishing industry, right? We get our books printed in several different places. When I'm in a rush to get books printed, I'll go to my man Frank Brown at Minuteman Press Uptown. They can get books out real quick. And we just got to know another printer, Fresh Color Press. They printed some coloring books for us last minute, and that was really a lifesaver, because our newest children's book, Hockey is for Everybody, is running late. And so we got these coloring books so people can at least experience the story in a special way. They're special edition, and we'll have them at the opening tonight.
Okay, great. I'm going to come back before we leave and ask you about growing up off of Plymouth Avenue and the impact you made reference to the Troubles, or they were called the insurrections by us. They were called the riots by them. But that was in 1960, probably 6, I think, or 67. And that was a time when I remember the images of a lines, formations of police people in the middle of Plymouth Avenue. And I I wasn't here then. I just know the story. I hadn't arrived to Twin Cities yet, but I, in research, can see in my mind's eye the conflicts and the torching of Plymouth Avenue and the anger. I've talked to Spike Moss and remember Syl Davis and Gwen Davis, and I knew the Eubanks boys. I don't know if you knew them.
Yes.
But anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. Angela, welcome and thank you. Talk, if you would, about your background as a business owner and entrepreneur and the number of businesses that you run.
Actually, I'm under the Chameleon Shops, and that's who helped us actually get our store. And we had our anniversary in May. So this has been that was our first 1 year anniversary. And I think Mary has been with us at least half the time. Before that,
Chameleon Shop.
Yes, Chameleon Shops.
So describe it. I'm not aware of it.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Chameleon Shops help small businesses get started. We were doing some pop-ups with them, and then they said, "Would you like to have a store?" And so we had there were a couple of us who started a sister co-op so we could have help other, and a lot of people throw their word around BIPOC, but we were helping other African American women start businesses or be at our store. So that's who we are. We're all African American. Okay. I have been doing this for about 5 or 6 years. I import all my products are from Nigeria. They're all handmade. It's a family business. My relatives and in-laws that are from Nigeria send me products. That's how I started. People were asking me like, "Oh, those are really nice purses. That's a nice dress," or whatever. And so I was doing it on a smaller scale, and then I started doing it on a larger scale. They're beautiful products. They come from the people right there in the market. They're made so people are also benefiting in Africa or benefiting Nigeria, and that's what I'm most proud of. And so the struggle, when I said the struggle, and I said it earlier, is that a lot of things are imported. So once you start a business, you find out all these things like to import, you need a broker. You have to go through customs, and customs, that's no joke either. And so you spend a lot of, even though you're getting products in, it takes money to actually get them in. And so trying to keep your products at a fair price for us to buy them. People are always surprised, like, "Oh, I'm surprised that, it's not much more," but I really do want to keep the expense down so anybody who wants to come in the store can buy the products. And I think we all do that. Mary does that. The other 2 business owners in there do it as well. And so I just really want to say that it's been wonderful to have Sister Co-op, to represent other African-American women working together positively to support each other has been great. And also actually getting all the support that we have been getting from the Chameleon Shops has been wonderful as well.
So what's your personal story? Where are you from? Are you a native Minneapolis person? Or
No, I'm originally from Chicago. I came up here to go to school at St. Cloud State University. I managed to get through that place, to be honest, because it was in the 70s, the late 70s that I came. And then I moved to St. Paul, where I've been forever. I love St. Paul. I know a lot of people from Minneapolis, but there's a beautiful community of African-American people in St. Paul. That's where I raised my family. And I'm a social worker. I work for one of the counties. So I'm a social worker by trade. And this, when I say I have a business, it's business, the kind of work that I do as a social worker, you need a relief. And having a small business and helping other people in other ways has been beneficial for me and has allowed me to stay in the social work business. I would say those 2 things go hand in hand. And I would say to any social worker, anybody that's helping people, get another outlet as well.
Yeah.
because you can burn out from doing the same thing over and over again. So I said originally I'm from Chicago. Have plenty of relatives from Chicago who have moved here, who have stayed here, who actually asked me why you moved to Minnesota, but when they got here, they stayed. And so I would say,
Where's your family originally from beyond Chicago?
Mississippi.
What part? So is mine.
Natchez, Mississippi. My mom's from Natchez, Mississippi, and my dad was from England, Arkansas, I believe.
My family, my mother's side is from Sunflower, Mississippi, and my wife's family is from a town called Crystal Springs, which is in Copiah County, which is just south of Jackson, Mississippi. But I say that to say I love Mississippi, and I love what Mississippi represents for our people.
I think
Going
everybody
forward,
from
not
Chicago,
the past, but going forward, yeah.
Everybody from Chicago is by way of Mississippi.
Yeah.
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 I would say that. And I think those roots have helped.
Mhm.
And you know what? I was going to say something about Nigeria. When you eat the food from West Africa and you eat the foods that were brought up with from the South, you can tell where we came from. You really can.
Have you been to Nigeria?
Every year. Yeah.
Okay.
Every year.
How many times have you been? So Onayiga, am I saying it properly?
Yes, that's my married name.
Igbo or Yoruba?
Yoruba, yeah.
Yoruba, okay.
I would say at least 10 times.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
You go to Lagos, or where do you go?
Lagos, and then travel around Nigeria, different parts of Nigeria. And one of the things I would like to also say that, if we could look at more similarities, like when I go to Nigeria, I'm able, because in-laws, family are there. When I go and visit, the people are so incredibly happy. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we're missing here. That's why I have to go every year. When you go and I get reset there for a month, and then I come back and then I have to go through the hustle bustle of being here. Mm-hmm. It's just so different. You don't need all the materialistic things that we have here. People are just happy believing in God and taking care of their family. And it's just so incredibly different than what we experience here sometimes.
I've been to Ghana a number of times. I've been to Uganda as well. And I love Ghana. Mm-hmm. I believe I need to go to Nigeria because I, through DNA, have Yoruba lineage. I'm a Yoruba. My matrilineal side, my mom's side, 99.5% Yoruba.
Wow.
So when you walk down the street, you will see your face. You will see your face, and that's the most interesting thing about being in Nigeria. You just look, and you can see your cousin or all the other people that you were brought up here. You will see your faces in them, so that's exactly where we came from.
And that's where I want to go. I haven't done it yet, and I'm pleased to hear you tell me about being there 10 times. All the stories I get about Ghana and my experience in Ghana is positive, but I get negative or lukewarm stories about going to Nigeria. But I have to be like everybody else, and that is to get over and not be dissuaded by the negative press. Because the disinformation is intentional. And so there is an intent to keep us at each other or against each other or untrusting of each other. That intent is both global. I mean, why should I feel any hesitation about being in Lagos? I shouldn't, but I'm telling you, I do, because, and I'm recognizing that it's probably because of the information environment that we're in. But that disinformation, Mary, is the same disinformation that keeps us from doing business and supporting each other right here in North Minneapolis as well.
Right.
It's the same system of marginalization and exploitation that wants to extract advantage from all the gifts we have. Those can be material, they can be labor, they can be land and resources in the continent. But the intent is that colonizers, by their intention, have their goal, and that is to, I used to say that white people love Africa, they just don't like the Africans.
Right.
They want Africa without the Africans, and you say, "Oh, Al, that's facetious." Well, look at North America.
Right.
The evidence is there
Mhm.
that there's a willingness and a capability of depopulating a continent for the privilege of advancing white culture, white society, and rationalizing that as manifest destiny. Having said all that, I believe Mary and Angela, we're at a place where we can talk to each other differently, communicate directly, not have to interpret ourselves through the lens and the interest of white people. But that's the beauty of you getting product directly from people in Nigeria. This is direct and live. And I think that's a wonderful thing. What do you think? Am I on the right track in my thinking, or am I too far off, Mary?
Yes,
What do you think?
yes.
Yes.
I think that also one of the things that I've appreciated in Mary is the sisterhood. We didn't know each other when she came, and she has been so incredibly supportive and helping the store grow. And anytime there's a problem, stepping in there. And so I think that I hope that we can be like something that somebody else can admire and do as well, that other businesses can get together, because it's hard. I believe it's extremely hard to do it by yourself.
Mhm.
And so the support that we can get from each other, it's helped me. And it's helped me anytime I have felt down or something. She steps right in there and say, Angie, I can do it, or I can come. And right there, that the relief that's the sisterhood.
That is. And, I'm honored to be a part of it because I feel like we need unity in the community. People say it all the time, but sometimes we're a little bit suspicious of each other. I don't know how many times since I started a business where I've talked to folks who have ideas for starting their own businesses, but they don't want to share them because they're afraid someone's going to steal their idea.
Mhm.
Or maybe they're leery about partnering with someone. And I just know that it's too hard to do it by yourself.
Mhm.
It's not impossible, but if you can collaborate and work with others, it makes the work more joyful.
Mhm.
And that's what I would love to see from our books and our events, is just bringing this atmosphere of joy and sisterhood and brotherhood, to our community, where we can appreciate each other and just celebrate each other. And look at Barbara Thomas, the artist who did the art for the cover. She's going to be at the opening tonight too.
Talk about this book in particular.
Okay. So Connie's reached out. I think she submitted her manuscript online right after we had somebody do some pro bono work, some students from Prime Digital Academy. They updated our website so that we could have online submissions, and Connie's was one of the first to submit online. I did not know her prior to her submitting, and when I reviewed her manuscript, I was like, this is what we need in life, is to be able to share each other's stories, because her story really connected with my story. We have a lot of similarities. And so as a publisher, I could say, I like this book and I'm going to make sure it gets published. But you know what? That's part of the problem in the publishing industry, is that it's historically white. So the white publishers would be like, I don't see the margin profits or whatever in this one. But I know the value of our stories, they don't. So I am just very proud to be able to get a voice from Minneapolis out into the world.
Let me say that everybody in Minnesota who's lived in North or South Minneapolis ought to have this book and read it, because as I was reading it, I'm looking for names of people I knew. I know many of the people in this book, and I'm looking for events and things that happened in community that I know. And so I tell you, this is simply a documentation of who we are and where we are and how we saw community and saw challenges and problems and how we got through them. It's a good book. I mean, it's well written, and once you start, you can't stop reading it. And so I want to recommend this book to everybody. And before we close, I want to bring my showrunner, Vash Bodhi on screen, just to talk about this idea of how we collaborate. You and I were talking, Vash, about reaching out to Black businesses and entrepreneurs and retailers in particular to see if we could figure out a way to get everybody on this show on a regular basis, and also do something promotionally where if you were on the show, Mary or Angela, you might come on and have a $25 certificate or giveaway to try to build audience and build awareness, get people in your store. So
Yeah.
I wanted to just get your feedback on how can Insight News, how can Conversations and our digital platforms support you? What can we do to help? Because we believe that helping you helps us grow our business as well. Vash, jump in for a quick second. Things you've done. Vash is in LA, right, Vash?
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Okay.
Wow.
All right. Well, I sent that gift to you to LA.
Oh, you did?
I did. Yeah. I just sent a package of Revel Avila to Vash, and I sent it to the address that was on your email that went to
for other purposes.
Yeah, for
yes,
Kelsey.
I did send you one that had this address, but no worries. It will get to you exactly the right time. But things that we are trying to do is we are engaging basically the community is to really do giveaways, right? If you have a gift certificate or something that you're used to giving away to help bring people into your business, whether it's discount on online orders, something to entice people to engage. Because once you get someone to engage, they're going to re-engage, especially if they're happy. So I know next week we're going to be giving away tickets to see Sweat. We're going to have one of the actresses on for the play Sweat that is playing in Minneapolis. And we're going to be giving away 2 tickets to the Friday show. So as we move forward, we're just asking people to engage with us in a way that allows us to really bring in your audience and
So I want to share this with you guys just so that you can think about how you can use our platforms to grow engagement and grow your business. Mary, before we close, I wanted you to talk about Plymouth Avenue. I think that was a turning point for the entire community back in the 60s when the street went up. And what's it's similar to is 2 years ago, the murder of George Floyd. So what happened? Remember, as a little girl, what happened in the neighborhood, how it looked to you?
Well, I have to preface that my explanation with the fact that my mom didn't talk to me about anything really, not even about my heritage. So I didn't know a lot of things when I was coming up. So I was probably 3 or 4 when I witnessed that. I had no idea what was going on. I just remember standing and looking at things burning. And when after George Floyd was murdered and the civil unrest was being shown all over the TV, it took me somewhere. It was like I was frozen looking at the TV, and I just don't even know how to process that feeling. I don't even have words for it. It's just like something that was stuck in the back of my mind from when I was little, But I do, I have often talked about a story when I have 2 older brothers. One of them passed away last year, but they were both left as soon as they turned 18, and I never really saw them again, but because of our home life. But I used to tag behind my older brothers, and they'd be going in the burnt out buildings and things. And one time we went to one, it was on the corner. I think it used to be a deli. And we were in there, and my oldest brother thought it would be funny to shut the door on me and my other brother. And it was pitch black. My brother panicked, and he pushed me, and I fell down, those cellars with the doors?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
The door was burnt off, so I went down the cellar. And I had, my whole body was scratched, like from my chin all the way down my chest because I tried to grab on. And I just remember they carried me home like a sack of potatoes. And my mom was just like, go lay on the couch. That was the end of that.
Oh boy. Well,
those buildings should not have been accessible to children. When I think about it, in hindsight, right. I could have died.
and the Plymouth Avenue laid like that for years. And then after they tore the buildings down, the land laid vacant for years. And it's just now being restored. And it says something about what the society thinks about us, our convenience, our access, our development. And it's like punishment.
Yes.
Punishment. How dare you object to the marginalization and the terror that we put you through, because that was accompanied by, policing policies and general disrespect. And back then, you were too young to know it, there were certain places Black people couldn't go. Yeah. When I first started this newspaper, I hired kids to deliver door to door, and the kids I hired would get chased north of Lowry Avenue, white neighborhood. And they deliver, they're working, got a job. These are kids, 10, 9, 12 years old. But because they're Black kids in a white neighborhood getting chased and called names. And then we didn't think about going northeast. We did later on. But northeast, same story. Racism so entrenched and such a powerful anti-Black sentiment here in this town that that explosion on Plymouth Avenue was inevitable. It had to happen. Yeah. And the same is true of what happened with George Floyd. The revealing of a policy or an attitude by law enforcement that resulted in the egregious taking of a life on global television, and the arrogance associated with that demanded a response and a change. But I think it's not over. As you were describing what happened, 40 years ago in the 60s, having an impact on you now, George Floyd, I'm wondering what will happen to a 5-year-old today, 40 years from now. I'm hoping the story is going to be different. I think we have to make it so. That's what I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much. I want to take a minute to have you, Mary, invite people again down tonight, 5 o'clock. Tell them to come in and check you out.
Yes, please do join us. And just a little heads up, the mayor of Minneapolis will be there for the cutting of the ribbon ceremony. So try to be there right at 5. That's when he does his remarks. And then we'll open it up and folks will come in and enjoy this beautiful atmosphere with the goods from Nigeria and the books from the Twin Cities. What a mix.
I'll send a photographer down. And we can make sure we can support documenting that. And listen, I want to close with saying that this platform is open for you from now on. And we just have to figure out, you have to just be comfortable saying, Al, do this, Al, do this, and expect that it'll be done. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Bosh, thank you, man. Good show.
Hey, another great day in paradise. Living the dream. All right.
We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Take care. Bye-bye.